Hello, and welcome to My Addiction. I'm Megan Weaver.
And I'm Marty Noxon.
That's my sister.
I'm her sister.
And we are here to talk about stuff. Addiction stuff, life stuff.
Yeah, our whole thing is talking about addiction, the serious, like the stuff that can land you in real hot water.
Correct.
But also talking about, other kinds of addiction. And the definition of an addiction is really when it starts to impact your life. And so I think it'll be interesting for us to talk about all kinds of stuff. Initially, we're talking a lot about, the big five.
The alcohol and drugs.
Yeah. The alcohol, the drugs,
but
the
there
pills,
there is other stuff. And when you say like impact your life, you mean impact your life negatively. Right.
Yeah, because there can be you can have really positive addictions per se. Like, some people, they get the runner's high, right?
Yes.
And as long as they're not like, I have a friend whose husband started the ultra marathon.
So people run a 100-mile marathon.
100-mile marathon. And he started that. And it's like, talk about like never home. He was never home.
He was always training.
He was always running. He was always running away.
Yeah.
That's
think
problematic.
That
at a certain point.
And healthy, but yeah.
Yeah, and also not good for your body.
Doesn't seem like it.
And nothing, I've never even walked a 5K, so I'm definitely not there.
Me neither. So also, like, I guess you could say habits, right? So bad habits are things that you, just can't stop without, can't stop on your own.
Yeah, we're just here to try to help people have a better quality of life.
I love that. But I do hope that this podcast does reach somebodies, and helps them see that they're not alone. And there are a lot of folks out here who are, who struggle or have struggled or who sought help or, and that's the goal.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is people are like, well, this generation's not drinking as much, but actually, or not, don't have, as much substance abuse. But the reality is anxiety has never been higher, especially among younger people, and addiction to things like social media, to pornography, to, those kind of things are really impacting people's mental health.
But I noticed that the kids, like my kids, I can only and their friends, they don't, to me, and they could be hiding it. They could not be giving me the straight, but I do sense that they drink less than I did,
that could be because of us.
Oh, that's right. Could just be because I was a heavy drinker
could be because,
out of the womb.
Yeah. We've maybe not been the best giant examples. We're better now.
Right.
But,
I just remember at 11, I was, I smoked a bong load when I was 11 years. Seriously, a bong load when I was 11 years old.
How did that go for you?
I think I was scared and then I had a really good time. And I only know this because I don't remember. Don't remember this. No, I kept a journal. I had this Judy Blume journal. And
Dear God, it's me, Megan.
Right. Dear God, it's me, Megan. I had this Judy Blume journal, and I found it the other day. And I was like,
oh, no kidding.
For real. And I started flipping through it, and I started reading this entry. A lot of it was like this, I'm not friends with Paula, and Lisa ganged up against me. And it was all that kind of like playground stuff. But then I found an entry where I was like, yeah, Paula and I had like 10 beers and then we tried a bong load and we laughed so hard. I was really scared at first, but then we laughed so. And I was like, wait a minute. This says June 12th, 1982. So if I do the math, I was 11 fucking years old ripping bong loads at Paula's house down the street.
Wow.
That's kind of crazy. And now I know my kids weren't doing that.
No.
So I don't know if it's like a product of the era.
Yeah.
That we were in.
Oh, come on. I mean, the era.
Maybe it was the street in North Hollywood.
Yeah.
That where I lived.
That was the mean streets of North Hollywood. Our house?
Yes.
Nanny's house?
Yeah.
Was like this oasis of like home decor. I mean,
you're right. She would take modest homes
yeah,
and turn them into like the most beautiful,
Which maybe, I think that's a big reason that you do what you do.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think just being her daughter and her just magically being able to, and on a budget. Really classy.
Yeah, she's a classy lady.
Yep, for sure.
So today,
yeah.
Speaking of classy people,
yes,
I'm so incredibly excited because
for our guest today,
we've got the Carl Radke from Summer House.
Yes. I've been watching Summer House since day one.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
Orcus twins.
Okay, but you make it sound like you're the only one, and I'm over here. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so we're excited to have him on, and he was very honest about. He's been very honest about his journey with addiction, and we are excited to talk to him about that. And
I think for a lot of people, as we, I'm sure you guys will talk about the fact that you've had a similar kind of trajectory, maybe on a smaller scale. But I think it was really moving to see that, and also to see him this season kind of evolve past that being the only thing,
Yeah, it doesn't define him. He's got other things going on.
He's got other things going on.
He's got a book coming out, I heard.
Cake Eater. And
then he's also launching a cafe of
sorts. Called Soft Bar.
Focusing on, elixirs, non-alcoholic drinks, things of that sort.
Let's talk about mindful consumption. Just the idea that that a lot of people are not, for them, it's about like the whole sort of sober curious movement.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
Yeah, I think it still is for certain people. But I think what for a lot of people that means is I don't want to be drinking every night of the week.
Sure. Or take some chunks of time off.
Yeah.
The sober
maybe
October.
I want to be doing tiny bits of acid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe. I can't wait on an episode to talk about microdosing because I know so many former wine moms who are now microdosing moms.
Yes, we can get into that because I did that too for a while.
You?
Yeah, I did that. But I was still drinking. Yeah. So I was drinking and doing mushrooms.
Yeah.
And then I tried it briefly to do the mushrooms without the drinking. Because I was like, is there something, maybe this will be good for me. No, didn't like it.
Why?
It made me too jittery and too... I felt strange. I would need to have a drink, an alcoholic drink.
To sort of temper.
Yeah, to sort of even out the mushroomness of it all. And having the mushrooms alone made me feel weird and icky. So I'm like, screw it. I just won't do them at all.
Well, I know, again, this goes to sort of some of the topics that we're going to, talk about in the future. But I know people who are sober, they define themselves as sober, but they're sober from alcohol and they are now exploring microdosing. I've known some people who are really staunch sobriety people who now feel like that is an okay thing. And maybe it's because for them, they can manage and control it.
It's also up to them. There's not this big person out there, that is the almighty that says, you are not sober if you microdose THC.
Yes, there is.
You bad on you,
yes,
and you're going to be
is.
Struck down for.
No, there absolutely
exactly.
Is.
I mean, God, God is saying that's not sober if you do that. You know what? Who are you, God?
Oh, no, sorry. I was going to say who are you, God? That is a whole other podcast. Who are you, God?
I am sober.
No, I mean, for me, it was in the back of my head. For that was the sober God was in the back of my head. But in our travels, we have found a lot of different ways to do it. So it'll be really fun to talk to Carl. I'm super excited.
Yes.
And let's get into that.
Yes. Let's talk to Carl. Carl Radke, thank you so much for coming on our podcast, My Addiction. We are so excited to have you here and talk about all things.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on. How you guys doing today?
We're good. Obviously, we all know you from Summer House and you know all your escapades. We wanted to talk to you on this podcast because my sister and I are sober folk, and it's always something that we love to talk to people about. And we decided to start this podcast and talk to others, in the business and in the media and, get people's take and see how, what you deal with and what your, journey has been. And we wanted to just sort of pick your brain about that.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's go.
Let's dive in.
I mean, I think, Megan, something that's really interesting is that you on Jeff Lewis Live on that show on Sirius.
Yes.
You had a kind of similar trajectory to Carl. So maybe tell him a minute of that. And
yeah. So I was on Bravo for a hot second on a show called Flipping Out. I think I was on about 7 seasons. And then with Jeff Lewis.
That's
Jeff Lewis.
Time. That's not a second.
Yeah, it was a little. Yeah, it was a while. And I was also his co-host on this radio show that he has on Sirius XM on Andy Cohen's channel. And I was kind of his, his Girl Friday, his sidekick. And we always talked about my drunken escapades. It was the hot mess mom express over here. And that was sort of my character on that radio show, which wasn't much of a character. It was me. I mean, I own it.
That wasn't your character. That was you.
That was absolutely 100% me. All the stories were true. But when I decided to sort of, clean up my act and get sober and deal with life, that was a little bit of a difficult transition, going from being the drunken one to being, sober. So I can see that in your trajectory on Summer House.
Well, there are tons of folks out there that I would certainly recommend people who are listening to this that would, there's other people that I follow that are, really living and breathing like the sober lifestyle and doing all of that and deserve way more credit than I deserve. So I am not the poster child whatsoever. I am the opposite of that, for sure.
But it's still, as a viewer, I have to say, and I've been sober about 9 years this time. The first time it was over 20. But I went and did a little research, which, I don't recommend. But I have to say, like, watching the show, there were times when it was hard for me to watch because, the partying, I would be like, who am I more worried about this week? I guess what we're asking is, what was that like for you? And was there any sense that it would impact your career negatively if you...
my addictions and alcoholism, it almost killed me. So my choice has nothing to do with Bravo or reality TV. It's to stay alive.
Yeah.
So that was where I was at with my alcohol and my cocaine use. Was I almost died from that. So I had to look in the mirror and get help, because other than that, I would have, gone even further down a darker path. But yeah, I would say, like, what the reality TV component was, not everybody has footage of their weekend or watching themselves back under the influence like that.
Yeah.
So for me, the reason I, had to really look in the mirror and face all of this was because of the fact that, like, I was reliving watching myself, in those positions and in those situations that, that wasn't who I wanted to be either, but I couldn't just stop drinking. I needed to get out. So for me, my story may be very different than others. I fell to my knees from addiction and alcoholism because it almost killed me. So that was why I had to get help. It had nothing to do with the show, honestly. Like, and people ask me now, like, how do you do Summer House not drinking or being sober? The answer is true. I wouldn't be on Summer House if I was drinking. Right. I wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't be here. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of how I look at it a little bit. I know, people certainly tune into the show and have connected with kind of what I've shared.
Sure.
But my whole thing is I want to just be like everybody else and live a very happy, fruitful life and not have to wear, like, everybody for the most part knows that I'm sober, but, like, I don't want to, like, every inch of my life isn't all about sobriety. There's so much more to me than the fact that I don't drink alcohol.
So yeah, you don't want to wear the scarlet S.
I do. And it's, I do, but I want it to be like just a nice embroidery, not like entire outfit.
No, I totally relate to that because, a lot of my work is around people, who in the industry who are, drinking and going to parties. And there have been times when I've had to really kind of be out there on the circuit, so to speak. And I always really loved that I could do that sober. And have fun sober. And I used to say, like, the thing about me is that I'm silly I'm like a silly person on the get-go. So I don't really need to be drunk to enjoy, to enjoy myself in a room full of partiers. But this was one of the questions we had for you. Like, is there sort of a point at which you're kind of like, I gotta go? Like, for me, it's always like, I call it, I love you, man, o'clock. When people start getting real messy and telling you stuff that you wish you didn't hear.
Yeah. I mean, I think after, like, I think you said it best. I mean, people start repeating themselves, or you can just feel the energy of things shift. And if I'm also just not feeling it, it's all good. Like I've been to this party 1,000 times. I know how this party ends. I know everything that's going to happen in this party. So I'm comfortable.
The last episode I saw, you stayed out with your castmates until like 2 a.m. at a dance club. And, I sometimes have that experience with my friends where, I do know how to have fun with them, and they entertain me. It doesn't matter that I'm sober. I always say a party is fun, whether you're sober or drunk. If it's not fun, it doesn't matter if you're sober or drunk, it's still not going to be fun. So you're always going to have a good time. It's the energy of the room and the people you're with. So I always have a good time with my friends. I think they're funny when they're drinking. I'm not I'm not super sensitive to that.
I will say though that for many newly sober people, there's a saying, if you're hanging out in a bar, you're going to get drunk. Like for many sober people, I know that it's important to avoid those situations. Like
people, places, and things.
Right. So actually, this leads into an interesting thing, though. If you are in a social situation, it's kind of nice to have a cocktail, but not get drunk.
So, non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
I love those Heineken Zeros. Yeah. And they, sometimes that really helps me get through, sometimes these party atmospheres and, or a tennis match. And, I always love just having that option. And how about you? I know you're involved and you're launching your soft bar and you're involved with Loverboy with the non-alcoholic.
Yeah. So I started, Kyle and Amanda are my two very best friends. We launched an alcohol company in 2018 called Loverboy. I was still drinking then. I got sober in January of 2021, but was still the face of an alcohol company. So it was kind of confusing and conflicting, but we did release non-alcoholic Loverboy drinks about 2 years ago. And I'm a big believer in just having something in your hands, something that makes you feel like you're a part of the party. For me personally, my experience, it's a soda water with lime. It could be a non-alcoholic beer. Yeah. Obviously, I love Loverboy non-alc because it kind of actually have a can behind me. It kind of looks like the real Loverboy, which for me in my sobriety, in my recovery, I'm comfortable drinking non-alcoholic drinks that say less than 0.5%.
Yeah.
There are people that have told me that I've relapsed because I drink those drinks.
Right.
So I just do what's best for me. I try not to I don't teach or tell anybody how to live, whatever they do what you got to do. But for me, having something in my hand at a party or a bar is important. Now, if I can have a non-alcoholic drink, even better, because that signals to the other person, it looks like that I am drinking almost. In a social setting, it almost helps create kind of more of a comfort when everybody else is assuming that I'm just doing exactly what they're doing.
I was going to say that is really an interesting aspect of this because people can get really weird when they realize you're not drinking. Yeah.
I mean, my personal theory is anybody who gets really weird, it's calling something from deeper inside of them that's saying they also have a difficult relationship with it. And I'm 100%. Not saying they're an alcoholic, but predominantly, I know how I was before I got sober.
Yeah, because it's like putting a mirror up in front of yourself, and it makes you feel like, okay, now I got to take a look at my drinking. And personally, I didn't want to do that. So somebody who didn't drink made me very uncomfortable.
100%. I mean, if you're into your life that you maybe weren't, ready to face. But I certainly see people that have, commentary about, a non-alcoholic drink or not drinking. But for me, that's also a signal that that's not someone I want to spend energy or time with.
Usually those for me are the people that I used to party really hard with.
Yeah.
And now they're super bummed that I'm
they
not.
Lost their drinking buddies, so.
They lost like the biggest drinker and biggest partier, of the group, and they just, but now, when they hang out with me now, they're like, oh, you're just as fun and just, believe it or not, also just as ditzy. Everyone thought that I was just ditzy and clumsy because I was drunk.
That's just who you are.
Turns out that I am just a klutz and a little ditzy by nature. So that was an interesting sort of discovery.
Well, it's making you more of who you really are, actually. The alcohol was actually covering up your true self in a lot of ways. But now people are probably getting to enjoy you for who you really are. You're a little silly, you have some quirks, and that is probably what people really appreciate and love about you. And that's more showcase when you're sober. But
I love that.
Maybe those quirks and things about yourself you were uncomfortable with, which is what led you to want to drink, to suppress those awkward feelings.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to go back to something you said, which I think is really important. And it's kind of a foundational part of why we're doing this, which is that in some cases, you said that some people feel like if you're drinking a non-alcoholic beverage that has a tiny amount, that doesn't really necessarily affect you at all, they think you're not sober. And I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about that, because we feel pretty strongly that everybody's sobriety should be their own. And, you kind of take what you like and leave the rest.
I agree wholeheartedly with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Living, I went to AA when I first got sober. When I hit rock bottom in January of 21, I had a friend of mine who recommended I go to AA. I never thought in a million years that I would ever step foot into that room, but I was an alcoholic and I needed that. So I went to AA, I worked the steps. I went to 90 meetings in 90 days. I had a sponsor. I did that for, I really worked the program. But I also was still wanting to be social and go to events and meet people. And I discovered non-alcoholic drinks. Now, the way non-alcoholic beers are typically labeled is in the way they're produced is that it has like a small trace amount, less than 0.05%, which is basically zero. It's a legality that they have to print on the can.
Yeah.
Just like they might put a nut allergy. This may contain trace amounts of nuts in this product. It's all about legality. Yeah. But the reality is, if you drank 50 less than 0.05% non-alcoholic beers and then took a breathalyzer and blew into it, it would literally still say zero.
Right.
For me, in my recovery, I've been very comfortable drinking non-alcoholic drinks that say less than 0.5%.
Yeah,
anybody
same here.
What I think, I say I would talk to your sponsor or your family and see what you're comfortable with. But I'm not going to make a recommendation. But I haven't had a drink in over 4 years. I drink less than 0.5% all the time.
Yeah,
I do too. Yeah.
It's some ingredients that have fruit, and fruit has naturally occurring alcohol. So if you ate a banana right now,
right,
it has more alcohol in the banana than it does in the non-alcoholic drink.
No wonder I love bananas.
There you go.
I'm a big banana
get drunk
fan.
on bananas.
I eat like 50 a day.
Yeah, I had someone tell me that because I like to have Carl, I am addicted to Topo Chicos. I buy them 3 to 4 cases at a time. When my kids want like when they go to the fridge, they have to ask me if they can have a Topo Chico.
That's not necessarily addiction. I would call it an obsession.
Okay, obsession.
Agree.
Because addictions typically are things that over time will kill you. And I hope your Topo Chico won't kill you.
Well, I don't know what's in them. So maybe I think I got to do it like a deep dive research because there's something in them.
Well, I think it's sodium and some other kind of...
I think it could be the salt. But I drink them out of a wine glass. And I've been told by certain people... Yeah. Well, you should probably just drink it out of a tall boy. Or I'm like, no, I mean, to me, that's fancy. To me, that's treating myself. To other people, they think that's triggery. And to me, it's not. So I feel like, again, do what works for you. Do what makes you happy. Do what makes you feel like you're having a treat. And for me, that's what works for me. I
love it. No, I love that you guys said that because that's exactly what, I try to promote that. And anybody who asks me advice, I put it back on them. I mean, it's I am not an expert. I'm not a doctor. Exactly. I'm not a therapist. I just know what has worked for me. And for me, I've been very comfortable drinking less than 0.5%. So
same.
Well, one thing I would just add to that, about like the program, there are all different kinds of people in the program. There's all different kinds of meetings. And I always say, to me, the one thing that is so valuable about it, and if you can get it elsewhere, fantastic. Again, you do you, is community, that you have other people to talk to about your struggles, that you have people to call. When I got sober this time, I couldn't do the program initially because the dogma was kind of like keeping me away. And a lot of why I go now is to help other people and to be in community. And then, in terms of like all the rules and stuff, I very much define my own sobriety. But I think it's really great that you can talk about that, because I think there's a lot of misconception about, abstinence and sobriety.
Yeah, I guess I don't. I'm only 4 years, a little over 4 years, but
right.
I'm happy, proud of the folks that have done 30 years or however long, and it's been complete abstinence, and that's what works for them. Go for it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I believe in the abstinence model for certain people. For me, I am sober, and I'm very proud of the fact that I'm sober from the drugs and alcohol that were killing me.
Absolutely.
My drugs were alcohol, cocaine, Xanax, Ambien, painkillers, anything to either come off of the cocaine and alcohol depression, or anything to get me feeling better again to go do the cocaine and alcohol again.
Right.
Yeah, same.
Whatever cycle I could get through on that. Outside of those, I wasn't abusing marijuana. Like I was alcohol, coke, pills.
Which brings me to something like, there's also sometimes judgment about going to non-alcoholic bars. And there you are. And I'm actually, it's in New York, right? When you
Brooklyn.
Open?
Yes. So we're not officially open. We've been doing mobile pop-ups since last year, but we have a location in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Amazing.
That we are trying to get open this summer.
That would be I can't wait for that.
I know. I can't wait to go. And I think, again, that's sort of talking about, one of the things we're trying to do with the podcast is create a community of people who can discuss all this stuff. And I think by opening Soft Bar, it's trying to create a community. I mean, that's also a big part of it, is we all miss
that vibe, like hanging out. And being with your friends and having, a jolly good time.
Yeah. I mean, I've wanted to create a space that really is without any influence of alcohol. Now, my whole thesis, and again, you guys could feel differently. This is not a sober bar. This is not a sober thing. It is a mindful consumption bar and cafe. The reason for that is not everybody is as comfortable like us raising their hand and saying they have a problem.
Yeah.
There's a huge percentage of the population that actually is buying the non-alcoholic drinks, but still drink alcohol. And I believe that people are looking for a break. They're looking for a night or a moment off. It's a supplement into their lifestyle. And I think a key way is it's for everybody. Right. But yes, the folks like us are going to absolutely be there and love it. Yeah. Because we haven't really had a place that's kind of geared around some of these things. Now, yes, a lot of bars serve Heineken Zero. Some bars carry mocktails. I wanted to create an actual four-wall experience that is very different than what exists currently. I want something that looks and feels like something you've never, like you basically are like, this is cool and new and different. Oh, by the way, they don't serve alcohol. And I just had an amazing time.
And I could can I bring my 19-year-old daughter, Carl?
Well, so without non-alcoholic beverages, you have to be 21 to purchase non-alcoholic beverages. So we're going to
because of that teeny tiny.
Yeah. But we are open all day. So we are a morning place because we serve premium coffee. We serve functional coffee. We serve coffee alternatives like matcha and cacao. Because I believe if you're healthier and not drinking as often, you also are productive in waking up early in the morning.
Yeah.
And I don't drink coffee. And if you don't drink coffee, there's also nowhere for you to go.
Right.
Like there's not.
True.
People think it's insane that I don't drink coffee. I'm already crazy enough without it.
Same. I mean, I've just started drinking caffeine again because I need a little more insane in my life. But yeah, I mean, I quit for years and years because it made me too anxious. I already had too much adrenaline in my system.
Yeah. Well, it gives you like way more. what you're looking for in a coffee beverage is focus and energy. What most people are getting in return is anxiety and jitteries.
Yeah.
That's the exact opposite of what I want in the morning. So I use, whether it's lion's mane or other mushroom coffees, cacao, matcha, they provide an energy and a focus, but without the jitter or anxiety.
Okay, I need to try that.
I was going to say,
I think I drink too much coffee.
I think that there's more people in our United States that are hopped up on anxious, like anxious driving liquids like alcohol and coffee.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a whirl. I think I'm gonna do a little a week without the coffee and see if my anxiety.
Try other alternatives. You can get from green tea. You can get it from matcha. You can get it from cacao. There's a variety of other caffeine alternatives that give you the jittery or anxious feeling.
I have a quick question, and then we'll talk about. Definitely want to talk about your book. The question really was, what's it like for you now dating sober?
Yeah, because I'll tell you this, Carl. I've been sober for a year and a half, and I haven't dipped my feet fully into the dating world because I'm terrified of dating without having a cocktail. Marty's been dating, but what about you?
I mean, I've gotten, I got sober in January 2021. It took me a little bit of time to kind of get, just confident.
Do you have advice for me, like to be newly sober and get out there?
Wait a year, but work that program for a year before you ever start dating. Because if you're not good and if you can't sit alone by yourself for an entire weekend, then you're not ready to date someone. Like, you need to be really sound in your own body and in your recovery before you start trying to introduce more things into your life. It's really about, I think, just trying to manage what you have, like what's going on in your life. Relationships can cause a lot of stress. They can cause a lot of anxiousness. And if you're not fully ready, you're going to go right back to where you were before you got sober in a way.
Right.
Not saying you're going to relapse, but I think some people don't take enough time to really work the program and really
work on yourself. And
And I think if you keep doing the work and you keep putting yourself in interesting communities and whether healthy environments, you're going to meet someone organically just through that energy. Not, okay, I'm healthy now, I'm going to go find somebody. Like, I don't think that is the right. I just think keep going and taking better care of yourself, keep focusing on your recovery, and you keep working on that. And over time, organically, you're going to attract someone that's way more viable than
it'll come. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. Putting up like a big billboard. Okay, I'm ready to date now. Like, I think you're going to have more issues that way. But that's just my personal.
Maybe that's my problem. I should take the billboard down.
Take the billboard down. Be out in the wild.
I call it chop wood, carry water. Just keep chopping wood, keep carrying water. And before you know it, that's like all you just keep working hard, but you're going to attract someone because of that energy. You're
love that.
You care for yourself more. I get it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'd love to meet someone, but I think when you're not ready, your body will tell you too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I'm going to take that to heart. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your book that's coming out in December?
Yes. I've been fortunate to be on reality TV for 9 seasons now. I looked around at a lot of my peers in the Bravo world have written books, and I've been really excited, whether it's from Shep to Sheena, who's written one, Stassi, Craig,
Lala,
Heather Gay, Dodie. And a lot of them have incredible stories and really interesting backgrounds. And I was approached by 2 different people back in 2022 about writing. I worked on some initial ideas and I came to the table with a bunch of stuff, and then decided to kind of take a pause on it. But then last year, I really spent some time working on it, and I got introduced to Simon & Schuster, and they loved what I had put together. So there's a lot more to me that the Bravo world doesn't know. I think it's interesting. People on Bravo think they really do know me, but you do in a way, but you guys actually don't know anything about me at all, which is the fact that's why I call it Cake Eater, because it's actually a thing from where I'm from.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
Growing up in Pittsburgh, it's a thing because of the area I'm from. It's a very wealthy, upper middle class area. My dad also grew up in that area. When he was a kid growing up, you would get called a cake eater by all the other kids and the parents when you played sports or were at some event. I was then growing up, and my dad would call me a cake eater joking around. And then all the other parents would call us cake eater. But I would go home, and we lived in a 1-bathroom house. I didn't have a door to my room. We were blue collar. We worked for everything we had.
Yeah.
We weren't rich, but I'm getting called a cake eater most of my life. And then, you may have understood, but my brother had a lot of challenges growing up.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a household where I watched my brother shoot heroin at 10 years old. We had police activity at our home when I was 11 on a Saturday afternoon. 5 police cars came and had a warrant to search the house because my brother had been involved in an incident the night before at a convenience store. Arrested my brother in front of 3 of my best friends at age 11.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to me that I don't think people fully understand, which it was important to really open up and tell it all.
Absolutely.
The big reason why I struggled with my alcoholism, because there's resentments and childhood traumas I never dealt with. And I explain some of the things I've been through, some stuff that was birthed on Summer House, which wasn't fully told in the way that I was hoping for. I explained those. And I think people will hopefully either find some solace in that someone else has gone through some stuff, or maybe find the strength to maybe ask for help, or feel less alone, or get, another family member of theirs some help. It was important just to try and help other people by telling my honest truth. And that's what Cake Eater is.
I think you will. Yeah, I know. I think you will. I think that it's interesting, the reach we have, or the reach you'll have. I mean, just being on a radio show on Sirius XM and talking about and being really honest about, why I got sober and that I'm getting sober and I'm in recovery, and I'm not, I'm famous by any stretch of the imagination, but the amount of DMs I got from people who said, wow, I heard you and you gave me the strength, or, the will to try to stop drinking, because you were you are the biggest partier. And I listened to the show and always laughed at your antics. But the fact that you realized, look, I got a problem and I'm going to address it, gave me the strength to look at to myself and my drinking. And I was like, what? I had some kind of an impact on somebody out there who happened to hear me. And because you are such, a big reality person, I think that is going to be, it's going to be incredible for people to read your story.
I don't know if you saw the smile on my face when you said what you just said, because I felt the exact same way. Like I always have felt like I've been reached out to by a ton of people. Yeah. People, for one person that can maybe just feel less or something, but it shocked me, because people are like, thank you so much for sharing your story. Yeah. Like I did it on purpose for them. I literally did this to save my life.
Right.
Talk about it out loud, because that's actually what holds me accountable. All I ever did was look in the mirror and help myself, but then I shared that out loud, and that is what helps other people. And I'm like, wait, I'm only doing this for me, but now you're telling me I just saved your life? How? Yeah. And they're like, well, but I realized too, I would look up to athletes were kind of my heroes. So for example, Michael Phelps, the Olympic gold medal swimmer, he shared a lot about his mental health. And here's the greatest swimmer of all time, who had ADHD, he was a very problematic child. But hearing him talk about his mental health, I'm like the greatest athlete of all time basically is struggles. And then I'd hear Kevin Love, who's an NBA player, talk about his mental health. Then Darren Waller, who's an NFL player who got sober. I realized, I'm like, okay, these NFL guys are sharing. I'm impacted by it. Yeah. There's got to be it's crazy that I would share and anybody would pay attention. It blows me away that anybody cares or even thinks about it. But I realized that it just takes one person who identifies more to my kind of world. It may not be the athlete that I looked up to, but it's a guy who's on a reality show who's a total, random guy. I'm nobody. I'm just a random dude who's on TV that, we've been very lucky, but I'm a nobody. But they watch me and are inspired. I'm blown away by that.
Yeah.
So,
I also think that it's really inspiring too, because part of the reason we're doing this together is, it's a family disease. And even though we're not related by blood, it's no surprise that our parents married each other. I mean, we have addiction going back in both, both families. And I think that it's so important for you to be able to talk about the fact that, having addiction, when you were talking about your past, like it really touched my heart, because I know how hard it is to have that kind of background and then actually do something about it and use the experience you've had to then be sober and help other people. So I just think that's, for us, like the fact that we can share the sober journey and you're sharing it with people and that you can break the pattern, that you can, you don't have to be, um, a victim to that circumstance. It's really hard to face it, but it's really the only way to get back the life that like you said, to live joyfully and fully. So I think that's another reason why your story is going to have so much impact. Like you got me.
We're excited.
I appreciate you saying that. I've tried to, I really don't view myself as anything, of note. It's my own mental illness that I struggle with, some of those things inside that I still have to work on. But I just feel very lucky that people have cared or feel like, what I've shared has helped. It blows me away every day that people even connect with what I talk about. But it is important. I feel like that, I was just wanting to be honest and just be really real. And if you don't like me because I'm being me, then that's actually okay. But the previous version of myself was me, but on steroids.
Yeah.
Same.
Same.
What's nice is I've never been more myself than ever. Like in the last 8 to 10 months, just being more confident in my own skin. And I wear, I don't wear the big billboard, I'm sober. I just live and breathe a really healthy, well-rounded lifestyle. And then if you uncover, you're like, wait, he doesn't drink.
Yeah. You're authentically you. I mean, I don't want to project, but that's how I feel about me. I am having authentic relationships, good conversations. I'm more me than I've ever been. And, I feel like that's really the poster you want to be wearing,
I mean, if now people don't really like you, it's just good. They can accept you for who you really are because you're actually giving them the 100% version of you. And if they don't like you, then it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
I'm me. But when you're using and you're kind of in this world of like chasing attention or validation or wanting to fit in, it's kind of like you're trying to drink and like do all these things to get people to like you. And then they hate you because you're not the version that you actually are. And you're like, wait, why don't they like me? Because you're drunk on drugs.
I mean, I feel like so much of living authentically is don't read the comments. Do you know what I mean?
Like, stay out of the comments.
You just
if someone can create some sort of there's blockers for stuff, but I will take any recommendation on how to not read comments because here's the part of it. There's good comments.
Right.
So what are you supposed to do? Like, you're an amazing person. You're the biggest asshole I've ever seen. You're a narcissist piece of shit. You saved my life. That's 4 comments in a row.
It's unbelievable. It really
I saved your life, and I'm the world's worst human being ever.
Yeah.
And I'm a piece of shit. I love you.
Yeah.
4 different people.
That sounds like my last relationship, but it was just one guy.
Yeah. Well, Carl, thank you so much. I just wanted to, as we wrap up here, I just wanted to ask you, for people like me who are a little bit newly sober, I'm 16 months.
Okay. 16 is incredible. Don't sleep on that. That's an amazing accomplishment. Seriously.
Thank you.
9 years also is amazing. So
amazing. I was just wondering if you had just like one line of advice or a couple lines of advice as to like how it gets better. I was telling my sister the other day that I kind of always feel a little bit good. And she was telling me how, well, you may feel a little bit good now, but I promise you're going to feel 100 times better and amazing as you keep this, you keep going down this lane. So I was wondering if you could sort of have, what's your 2 cents on that?
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple of comments. I mean, think about like, if you were to go to the gym tomorrow and run 5 miles and lift a bunch of weights, you're going to be sore. right? You're going to be like, probably not going to walk, but like if you were to over time consistently hit the gym, and you would see the results. So I think over time, the work you put in does compound on itself. It may not feel like it, but after 4 years, I mean, I feel like a completely different person. Mentally, physically, emotionally. It over time, it's built on that. One day at a time.
Yeah.
I know it's cheesy, but you have to just focus on today, staying present, staying grateful. For me in my world, like I remind myself of I could be dead right now, and I'm not kidding. I know I said that a few times now, but that's how bad my cocaine use was. Like I almost died. And like I think it's important really to stay grounded and remind yourself every day how lucky you are, how grateful you are. And just stay in that day. And I think over time it does build on itself. There's no one size fits all. Everybody is awkward and cringy in their first 2 years of sobriety. But the one example, I don't know if this podcast will be video for later, but this is my life on drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
This is my life in sobriety.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all right. That's a perfect example.
The wave of my life is a lot more balanced and manageable. And like, would you rather go on a thing like this, or would you rather ride this every day, every weekend for 10 years? I'd rather be like this for the rest of my life.
Same.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Carl. This has been so fun and enlightening. Thank you.
Trust me, I wish I don't have it all figured out. I mean, I have my personal opinions on stuff, but I hope what you guys said really permeates through everybody's listening, which is no one can define your sobriety except yourself. Do what is best for you, and making small changes or small progress is a win in and of itself.
Yep.
Abstinence can work for some, but if you getting off of wine for 6 months and you can do that successfully and that's really healthy for you, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So don't let anybody tell you how you define what is best for you.
Yeah.
Yay.
But last thing I'll say, and you said it best, is you're never going to stay sober if you don't have other people that are sober, or you can connect with that are sober, who understand and can feel these things. You need a little bit of a hand holding with other people in the community. And that's that fellowship. It's that kind of congregation. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't have friends who also live the lifestyle that I do. It's just, it doesn't happen. You can't stay sober in a silo or in a box. I mean, you can, but you will be a miserable dry drunk.
Yeah, and again, like I've loved talking to you like this because I've seen you obviously on the show for years and years, but I feel like I've gotten to know a part of you that is really precious. So
thank you.
Yeah, I have big mom energy. People tell me that.
No, you ladies are great. Like I said, people give me praise or credit, and I struggle with it big time. Like I don't really feel like there are a lot of folks out there that deserve accolades and credit for their work in recovery and helping other people. Like I could do a lot more, and I certainly, I'm in a public position, so it's interesting. The exposure of it all gives me more credit than I actually deserve. So it's uncomfortable for me at times when people really give me a lot of credit or praise, and I'm like, I don't deserve it. Like, redirect it back to yourself.
Well, I don't know about that. I think you do deserve it. And I think that you are an inspiration to many. And, definitely to me watching you. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story
really
and
special.
Being vulnerable and open with us.
Yeah, of course. Someone told me years ago, Carl, if you don't lie, you don't have to remember anything.
That's true.
I'm like, that's good. I was like, I like that. So
it's a good one. I'm going to tell my kids that.
Yeah, just being honest and authentic. Yeah. I think more and more our society rewards that. And I think it's continuing to foster less stigma, foster more healthy conversations, more acceptance and understanding, and more grace.
Yeah.
Every person that's listening to this right now has someone in their life that is struggling.
Yeah.
And we need to be more understanding that there are options, there's help, there's ways to help others and support people that go through stuff.
Couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Carl. You're the best.
No, thank you. And if you guys come to New York City, you're more than welcome to join us at Soft Bar. We hoping to be open this summer. Opening a 4-wall business is very challenging, which is part of why you might be sensing a little stress on me because I just have a lot going on.
No worries. We get it. We get it. It's a lot to take on. But yes, hope to see you there and I hope to visit it this summer. My daughter's at NYU, so we'll head on over. Yeah. Thank you again, Carl, so much.
Take care.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Well, that was awesome. How great is Carl?
Oh my God. Like you said, there's so much of him. You kind of think you know people on TV. And then,
but you don't really.
Yeah,
you only get a little bit of them in the environment that they're filming. You don't get the sort of origin story, the backstory, who they really are. You know what makes them tick.
Yeah, and I mean, this sounds pluggy, but I'm genuinely excited to read his book because that sounds really.
I won't be reading it.
You'll be listening to it
because I don't read. I don't like listening to audiobooks, like fiction in the car, but I love listening to memoirs.
Oh.
And I love listening to the people who wrote them, read them. And that's like one of my favorite things to do.
I essentially read everything with my ears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That counts. It counts, I
read
think.
Everything with my ears.
Yeah.
No, it does. I read a study that comprehension is just as good.
Okay.
I also go back a ton. And again, my daughter, who's she's always like, why do you keep rewinding? And I'm like, because I missed something.
Right. You didn't comprehend it.
Did not comprehend it.
I mean, it's just like when you're reading, sometimes you'll go back a few pages. And
the other thing I do is I'll be listening when I go to sleep.
Yeah.
And so I sometimes I'll even wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh, I missed that. And I'll start playing it again. No. But my point being that I have to then re-listen to everything that I was listening to as I fall asleep. So sometimes it takes a long time to get through
the book. Yeah.
So I'm excited to do that. And then let's do our little game. But it's our addiction of the week, but Carl pointed out rightly, it's really our obsession of the week.
Not an addiction.
No.
Right.
But it could be if we did it enough.
If it became problematic.
Yeah. So let's see. Mine is those phone games that you play that have absolutely no intellectual value at all.
Like Candy Crush?
No, I think Candy Crush even requires more thought than this stuff. I'm talking about Fruit Merge or something where you're just like dropping a watermelon on a pineapple.
Okay.
And yes, you can do better, with various things, but it's not like it's not. Our new sponsor, Fruit Merge.
Yeah, there you go.
They're coming in.
Talk up Fruit Merge.
Love me some Fruit Merge, but also like the ones where you just you have to pick 3 of the same things real fast.
Yes.
Like 3 watermelon. Again, watermelon.
I don't. I'm acting like I know.
Skulls.
I know what I understand that they're out there. I've never I've never played them. I've never been interested.
I can sit there. It's usually like second screen thing
where
I've got a show on or I've got my book on.
Yes.
And I'm just sort of mindlessly, and then the place where I think I start to define it as an addiction is if I start spending money.
Oh, you start buying extra things within the app, in the game.
When you start being like, okay, I do want those jewels.
Right.
So that I can make my watermelon bigger.
We all want a bigger watermelon. I get it.
Yeah, when you fall, I played this game, My Singing Monsters, for a long time, but then I hit the paywall.
Okay.
You
had to stop yourself.
Yeah, that's when you know. Okay. I think when you start, they had this thing where basically they said you could buy goods, buy things like items, like actual Brooklyn and Sheets or something, our new sponsor. And then, but for that, you would also get jewels in the game. So I was rationalizing buying things like
because you were getting something physical. Out of
so I was like, that's not bad. But my kids were like, would you thought that?
Right.
Really?
Not sure.
So that's been mine. Okay. And I'm just keeping an eye on it.
Okay.
How about you?
I've been doing a lot of driving lately. but that's not my obsession.
Oh, okay. I was going to be
I've been doing a lot of driving because I took 2 trips down to the desert for a couple different things I was going to. So I got into, and Lillian might be a little bit responsible for this because I did ask for your recommendation, but then it became an obsession, true crime podcasts.
Oh, you haven't been into that?
Yeah, you really fucked up because now I can't stop. And I'm now looking for the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. So I listened to all, I think, 15 episodes of West Cork, which, by the way, I also saw the documentary. So I had no business going, having
which
seen.
Which one is West Cork?
It's about this murder in Ireland, West Cork, Ireland, that has remained unsolved to this day. And they suspected this one guy. Anyway, I could keep going on and on, but it's like a 14-part podcast series on Audible or whatever it is. But there's also a documentary that I remember watching. I've already seen it. It's been covered.
Oh no, Lane.
But now I can't stop.
Is so deep into Morbid, My Favorite Murder.
So then you guys told me about My Favorite Murder.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I went down that lane.
Not sorry about that one.
Okay. So My Favorite Murder. So then what I would do is I would listen to what they talk about this crazy murder. Then I'd be like, ooh, that's really interesting. Then I'd do a deep dive on the murder that they talked about.
Oh, gosh.
And then try and find a podcast about that murder specifically.
Yeah.
And so now it's become a problem because of Lillian.
Yeah.
And I can't stop. And now on Netflix, I'm like, where are the murder documentaries? That's all I want to watch.
There's a lot of them.
I know. I found them.
You're not going to have a lot of. Yeah. I mean, I think that for Lane, my daughter, it is bordering on an addiction because she we'll be listening to an entirely different podcast about murder than the one she has listened to all the episodes of.
Sure.
And she'll be like, oh, I know this one. And she'll start telling me everything about it. And I'm like, and also like dead kid stuff.
Yeah. I don't like dead kid stuff.
She will listen to this stuff going to sleep.
No. And
I'm like,
I can't do
that. Does that not, the dead kid stuff isn't getting to you at all? I'd have to ask her to turn them off in the car.
I don't like
I'd be like, no. She'd be like, come on, Mom. And I'm like, no, it's real life. This actually happened.
Although I am guilty of watching 2 John Bonet documentaries. So I guess that does qualify. I guess that does qualify. But it's been a really long time.
It has.
All
right. Well,
still remains unsolved. But so that's my obsession of the week.
That's a good one. Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that
one,
and I hope people can relate to my phone games.
I think so. I've seen people go to town on those phone games.
Yeah. Well,
the choo-choo train game. I've seen Ben used to play that all the time.
Yeah. They're real mind numbers.
That's good. You're at the car wash.
You know what? I think anything that I do where I do not end up in Tijuana with my underpants on my head is probably pretty benign.
I think you're safe.
Yeah.
I think you're safe.
Okay.
We don't want you in Tijuana with your underpants on your
Not
head.
again.
Not again. With broken teeth.
Not again. Oh, God. All right. Well, this has been fun.
This has been fun.
Next week. Oh, yeah. We got to do our snowshoals.
Oh, yeah. So you can find us on @MyAddictionPod, where you find your social stuff.
Place.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
All of it.
Yep.
And one thing we're really hoping is that if you're listening and you want to talk to us, meaning leave comments, Megan's really good about her DMs. Me, not so much.
I will answer.
Yeah. I will send you to DM her because I'm just not on my phone that much.
Okay.
Unless I'm playing one of
Candy
those dumb
Crush,
games. Yeah. But we're really hoping to build a community. So feel free to comment, and you know what? If you want to DM me, I might start looking at them more.
Look at that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to My Addiction. As a reminder, this podcast is meant for entertainment. We are not medical practitioners, and anything on the podcast does not constitute medical advice or treatment. Please consult your own medical professionals at all times. My Addiction is a Tiny Pyro production. It was created and hosted by Marty Noxon and Megan Weaver. It is produced by Marty Noxon, Megan Weaver, Maria Grasso, and Lillian Holman. Our graphics were designed by Lane Bynum. Our social media is managed by Aziza Abba Boutain and Ashley Lindsay. Special thanks to Allison Shano, Rebecca Steinberg, Amy Steckdaub, and Melissa Tavarit.